I'm gonna do 1 minute. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome back to Scott's Weather Show, where we kind of take a look at things happening around the states, North America, and when we've got a serious situation or something worthy of note elsewhere around the world. And I kind of want to start where we picked up a couple of days ago, where we were talking about global warming and temperatures, temperature variables, and so forth. And my concern with this topic, and I want to show you how my experience in meteorology played directly into that. I want to share basically a story of how we're dealing with global warming. It's happening on, well, they tell us it's happening on a global scale. Yeah, there's something going on, but what is it exactly? So that I posted a story. It's about a year and a half old, but the numbers really haven't changed that much. Posted by the Guardian. And quote, if the UN stated goal of reducing global warming by 1.5 degrees Celsius is to be met, maybe we should ensure the integrity of the temperature data first. This is what I'm saying is an introduction. There is an idiom in computer science: garbage in, garbage out, GIGO. And the concept of flawed or nonsensical input produces nonsensical output, or garbage out. And it was interesting because I'm going to relate this a little bit to the COVID experience that we're all going through right now. That some of the models that the Brits were using in the United Kingdom to model how many deaths this virus could population, they would run the model with the same set of data and get wildly different results. So the modelers, or these healthcare professionals, or they were largely in the education industry in the universities, would have to run the model multiple times with the same data in to get and kind of narrow down the result that they would present the public. Well, in hindsight, we can see that these models were wildly off, incredibly over forecasting the number of deaths. That doesn't mean that we don't have a second, third, fourth weight and other issues that will become, uh, let's just say, come to the forefront in the weeks ahead as we reopen. But nevertheless, the models were supposed to give us data on this straight away that we could use to forecast the closings. So just as these healthcare models were wildly over forecasting the number of deaths, we're seeing something similar in climate, whereas we're not seeing the warming that these models in the 80s and 90s and even the last decade in the zeros in the first decade of the century were forecasting. So the whole point is garbage in, garbage out. Now, here's a website with some great researchers, some truly journalists going out there to look at what are the surface weather stations. See this white box up here in the upper left hand corner. In the old days, literally from the beginning of when we did controlled observations, these white ventilated boxes set at about 6 foot above the ground would house the mercury or alcohol based thermometers and the hygrometers for humidity and dew point, and set on grass. They had to be on a grassy surface to catch the natural variations of the climate. So the grass cools off at night, whereas, say, pavement does not. But in their research and sampling all of the, well, not all of the sites, but a nice chunk, 82.5% of the network's been surveyed across the United States. What they have discovered is that 64.4% of these weather sites are reading or are biased 2 degrees Celsius or greater. And then 5 degrees Celsius or greater, there's 6.2 of these official National Weather Service or other some accredited agency that are reporting data that are at least 5 degrees Celsius above normal. If we want to look at a degree of error of less than 1 degree Celsius, which is nearly 2 Fahrenheit, 1.8 Fahrenheit, we are looking at just a sliver of less than 8% of the stations are within 2 degrees Fahrenheit of where they should be reading. So this is epic. If we are to reduce global warming by 1.5 degrees Celsius, if the data going in is bad to begin with, how can we how can we even begin to assume that we're modeling the climate appropriately when we can't even get the cloud factor, the feedback that the clouds are going to give us a result? Because if we're warming, then there's going to be more vapor in the atmosphere. If there's more vapor in the atmosphere, the result is more clouds. If we have more clouds, more vapor, we're going to end up with more rainfall. If we end up with more rainfall, then we end up with a greening of the planet. So there are already numerous natural mechanisms built in to stop these runaway greenhouse effects. And those are obviously because of the poor results we're getting from climate models. Those have not been properly accounted for in the system. So something I want to look for. These are the kinds of weather observations or sites that are ASOS, automatic weather observing system, or a system that are at airports and just pretty much everywhere. When I was in Idaho at a station at Pocatello, at this particular station here on Sherman Avenue in near downtown, but not quite downtown, but definitely residential, we decided that here at the street, we've got a sidewalk here, a little strip of grass, and then the satellite dish farm was right there. And here is where the temperature is being recorded from. This instrument is wired and then reports inside, and then you call it in or phone it in. Then here's the rain gauge sitting out. Yes, it's clear. It's got some enough clearance for rainfall. It should be the case. But as far as temperature, this particular station that I helped site back in 2001, 2002 is going to be reporting bogus data. And there are hundreds of these all over the world that are simply reporting bogus data. All right, so that's my little rant on global warming. Let's take a look at some of the stories we've kind of looked at today. Tropical storm Arthur, now with winds sustained at 50, moving off the Outer Banks. We'll look at the satellite imagery of it momentarily, and it's going to continue to move away from North Carolina into the cooler weather. National Weather Service out of Chicago. I thought this kind of important. They stated no more rain fell between May 14 and May 17, nearly 8 inches, 7.88 inches in Chicago, than has fallen during 1,759 of the previous nearly 1,800 months that they have records for Chicago. Meaning there have only been 33 months in Chicago dating back to 1871 that have had more precipitation. All right, we're looking at an extremely severe cyclone storm, Amphan, if I'm saying that right, Amphan or Amphan, uh, English dialect, of course. And we've got a nice big fat eye there as it heads into the Bay of Bengal, and its forecast will arrive. We're looking at on the 20th, so just about 36 to 40 hours away into the Bay of Bengal, where we've got nicely focused landfall off the Indian Ocean to where we can see incredible storm surges as that storm presses inland. And here it is in infrared imagery. Nice, wound up, nice presentation, symmetrical storm, probably due to go for an eye wall replacement. But what is mentioned here is it is the first cyclone of the 2020 Indian cyclone season. And if this is an indication of how conductive the Indian Ocean is right now for supporting big cyclones. And Portland, Oregon, and I was out there. I was out in the Northwest 40 years ago today when Mount St. Helens blew. All right, speaking of the West and geological events that could be a little questionable, this is Nevada, where we've had almost 1,400 earthquakes in this zone, just northwest of Tonopah and Hawthorne, Nevada. And they continue to this day, adding insult to injury, if you will, a nice 5 point. Yeah, I believe this was a 5.5 that happened earlier today, early this morning. Yeah, 5.5 off Ferndale, California, and then with it a 4.7. And those triggered watches for tsunamis, though nothing happened. So there's something happening out west, something geologically that I'm going to keep my eyes on. We've got clusters of earthquakes in central Idaho, just outside of Salt Lake City, in far southern California, as well as Mono Lake, plus that Hawthorne Tonopah quake area. All right, temperatures hot through southern and southwest Texas, much cooler back east, and it really looks like we're going to stay on the cool side for the eastern states. There's a deep low, part of what brought the cold weather to Chicago and the rainy weather to Chicago today. And that, let's see if we can't get this to play. Probably just have enough tabs going on here that it's saying, Scott, you're giving me too much to do, but get used to it. All right, this is Arthur as it begins to pull away, and then this is going to be an event that we are going to watch kind of churn through the Ohio, Tennessee River valleys through the remainder of the week. And with that cool, unsettled condition, as we kind of itch towards that Memorial weekend where you want to be thinking about the beginning of summer, they'll persist with temperatures easy 10 degrees below normal through the bulk of the week. And still, it's unsettled out west. With the center of the low, there's one coming ashore in California where they have had some very welcome rains out in that direction. I was hoping to see a little bit of this visible circulation of Arthur here before we saw sunlight set, the sunlight terminate a race across the image. But then the higher clouds, where the cores of thunderstorms are already racing off to the northeast, leaving this eye exposed. And then in the west, I'd rather have continental or regional sectors, please, that the showers are going to continue. The rains will continue out here. So this, considering how dry California was and Nevada and the Southwest, these are welcome rains. They may be a little late in the season. May be impinging on some of the summertime activities, but nevertheless, the rains, the deficit is so great out there that we've just got to have the rains and take them any way we can get them with heavier rains just now east of Boise, moving into the western edge of the Magic Valley, and even into eastern Oregon, where it's just plain been dry. All right, quick look at what the Weather Prediction Center, the guys in DC, are saying. Where I am in southern Colorado, fire. Fire. My spot hasn't had an inch of rain all year long, and I'm up on the western edge of the Sangres, and we should have had it. We've had enough storms that have come through, and in my opinion, have been engineered so we've had some of that moisture taken away, and you just kind of got to detach from it. You just, once you know this stuff happens and you see the planes in the sky, you know that there's something nefarious going on with the weather. It's, you can understand it, you can let go of it, but it's hard to watch nonetheless, especially when there's impacts to the vegetation, to the forests. There's damage being done by this activity. There's absolutely damage, and some of it is going to last generations because it's been going on for so long and been so extreme, especially in the forests out west. Still, the risk of mixed precipitation in the higher elevations all the way through the Sierras, Siskiyou, Cascades, and into southern British Columbia. Risk of severe weather in the Carolinas, and still the fire risk goes on with still some cooler showers out there. QPF, quantitative precip forecasting. I'm all about that because we need the rains, and we can see this progress from today's in the Great Basin, and then heavier precip in the southern Appalachians, the Piedmont of the Carolinas, the Ohio River Valley. We'll page through these rather quickly and let them move on through. But someplace that we'll probably see some news from will be the northern prairie provinces of Canada. We'll skip on over there to the 7 day total. These are healthy rains. These are excuse me, 4 to 10 inches of rain, and then the prairie provinces, Alberta, points north up towards Fort McMurray, northern Idaho. They've all been rather dry, so this could be very welcome rain as we move through the week. So that'll wrap it up for the day. We'll watch Arthur pull ashore. Hey, thanks, guys. Michael G on, Brian Bingham. We're now having awesome warm weather. Yay, up in Edmonton, Alberta. You guys are brave for living up there. Three of my grandparents were Canadians, and they ultimately all migrated south. It's beautiful country. It gets so flat. They were from Winnipeg and proper. And Jules, thanks for the straight talk. Yeah, I don't know how to do it any other way. There's just so much to talk about, and things that I couldn't say, when I had either a W or a K in front of my name, that I can broach these topics here. All right. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the views. And we'll catch you tomorrow and see where the flooding happens. See if Chicago picks up any more, if they break any additional rainfall records, since it's so early in the month. And we'll look at, I was going to show you record highs, what we're seeing or likely to see over the next couple of days. Mostly Dallas, Houston, the southern Gulf Coast of Texas. That's probably where the hottest abnormally weather is going to be over the next little bit. All right, everybody. Have a great evening, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Keep looking up. I can never get this thing, this trackpad. I'm telling you guys, I love a mouse, but the trackpad is so good for it'd help if I'm on the right screen, wouldn't it? You know, on the other days I could just click the mic and turn it off, but here you're going to listen to me till I hit end broadcast.